Hi, it's Holger Mueller from Constellation Research. I'm back with Dave Duggal, the CEO of Enterprise Web. In our first interview, Dave introduced the Enterprise Web no-code integration and automation platform. In this segment, we're going to talk to something close to my heart about modernizing SAP's order fulfillment process. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Holger, great to be with you again.
Great to have you as well. So, I worked for SAP I just did the math, a third of my professional work life. So I'm very close to that, understand the complexity and the intricacies. And you posted a demo on YouTube, which is great, and we'll make the link available in post-production here. But let's walk through this demo. What did you get the idea in this particular use case to build something around SAP?
Well, in this case, we described a couple of use cases on our last call. And in this case, it wasn't from a customer per se. It was actually from SAP itself. So while we've done a lot of work doing system integration with SAP products in the past for customers and integrators, SAP in this case was running a hackathon, a unified ontology challenge to see if graph knowledge bases could, at this point, sufficiently describe a system to enable interoperability across endpoints in real-world scenarios. So like everyone else, SAP is essentially looking to make it easier for customers to connect with their portfolio of services. So they were interested in seeing the state of the art. What's possible with graph knowledge bases today, and that was what we were responding to.
Very interesting, because integration has been a big problem for SAP customers since a long time. So big that the new CEO, not so new anymore, Christian Klein, even made integration the main subject of what product development is working on. Right. So how do you hear about the hackathon?
Yeah, so in this case, we were actually invited by SAP itself. Apparently, some of the SAP technical team had reviewed our materials online, seen some of our demos, attended some of our presentations, and maybe read a couple of our articles. So I was contacted by SAP and invited to participate, which was great for us.
Yeah, very good.
So it was actually sort of perfect because I hadn't heard of it, but this really is a sweet spot for us, right? I mean, like you were describing, this is a sort of a well-known challenge. SAP has obviously been working on it for a long time as well, and it's not just a challenge for SAP, right? It's a challenge for everybody trying to connect their products. So it was a great opportunity for us to show how we could create a single interface over the set of SAP endpoints and sort of drive interoperability, automation, and management across our portfolio.
Very, very true. It's a problem for all ERP vendors, so to pick on SAP here. But what was the starting point of the hackathon?
So order-to-fulfillment workflow was the exemplar that they provided. They gave us some, access to SAP models like the One Domain Model, files, SAP service endpoints, et cetera. So they gave us everything we'd need to do to demonstrate our solution.
Mm-hmm.
And but the order-to-fulfillment was the use case that they wanted.
SAP has done a lot of work around making integration easier, building the One Domain Model. Did they make that available for you guys?
Yeah, so the One Domain Model, it was made available. It was critical, and it's actually a nice piece of work that they've done. They're like we've been discussing. They've actually been putting in the effort to organize their portfolio in a way that's much more accessible. So the SAP was a starting point for us. It provides a graph of SAP core objects, but the One Domain Model in and of itself lacks the semantics to seamlessly connect the objects in a service graph. So at this point, the One Domain Model is more of a catalog of products than it is sort of this interoperable graph. So solution delivery still requires a mix of custom code, manual integration, BPM flowcharts, interface development, et cetera. So it's not no code, right? So the SAP One Domain Model was the starting point, and it's absolutely a good piece of work. We took it to the next level.
Very good. So walk us through what you did in the hackathon.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going to go back to those three primary steps that we talked about on the first call, because there's essentially the three development workflow steps that anybody developing a solution in enterprise web is going to follow. Well, step one is develop the domain model, right? Create the domain. Step two is going to be then essentially set up the runtime, set up the system environment which your process is going to run across, and then step three is going to be compose your service. So what we did in this case is we called on the SAP Graph API. We extracted the disconnected ODM objects, their schemas and interfaces.
Okay.
In this case, SAP uses OData. I think you know that, right? But we can import pretty much anything, whether it's XML, JSON, even pseudo UML out of PDF documents. So we imported that. That jump-started the process. We essentially were able to extract out all the entities out of the one domain model. But on top of that, we're essentially wrapping it with Enterprise Web's own baseline model, its own system concepts and types that actually make that model executable. Once that's done, essentially now we have all the SAP objects in our system. A IT person now, so the solution architect does the essentially domain modeling. Now an IT person essentially can establish the runtime, essentially the SAP and Enterprise Web services that are going to run this process. And then a service designer or a process designer can come in and then essentially compose the service very quickly. We essentially can jumpstart that process as well by importing an SAP asset like a BPMN file. Enterprise Web will extract out the process tasks, the integration points, the user roles, etc. But then we're really doing rapid application modernization. We import that and we're going to convert that, transform that into an event-driven data flow process. All of this is done in minutes. Actually, in that demo that you mentioned that is available on YouTube, we do all of this in 15 minutes while describing it.
All the fun stuff starts there because you've done the heavy lifting before in amazingly short time, Dave, right? That's what I think it's really hard to believe. And if I hadn't seen the demo, I'm sure I wouldn't believe it. So I encourage everybody listening to us here to check out that video.
Yeah, and there's no magic here, right? It's all just solid computer science and good systems engineering. I mean, to provide this enabling technology, like you said, you do the heavy lifting first. You lay the foundation, you get that domain model in place, and then everything else becomes easier because you have those reusable assets that you can maintain separately, and everybody's just then using shared metadata and objects.
That's very cool, very interesting. Really appreciate you walking us through. I really look forward to our third video where we're going to look under the hood how Enterprise Web does. Well, I'm going to say the magic. You say it's solid computer science. We'll see what it is in our third video. Thank you, Dave.
Fantastic. Great. I look forward to it as well.